This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies, where we try to solve the world's problems through the miracle of carbohydrates, one recipe at a time, with host Marissa Rothkopf and her dog, Bosco.
Hello, and glad to have you here with me on The Secret Life of Cookies. This is the second podcast of the week, because when Senator Barbara Boxer says she wants to talk midterms, you talk midterms. It was truly an honor and a true pleasure to have the senator on the podcast. I could give you a charming rundown of everything we talked about, but suffices to say, we laughed, we almost cried, and the senator has practical advice on getting your friends to the polls and how to make sweet potatoes, but more importantly, how to get your friends to the polls. So let's do that, and let's get on with the podcast. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks. Thank you to Senator Boxer for being here today on The Secret Life of Cookies. It is a pleasure to have you here, especially in a kind of fraught, busy time where, we have the midterms right upon us. And I think because of that, I'm going to be doing some minor cooking here. I have some pumpkin seeds left over from my pumpkin. And I'm actually, for the first time ever, I'm saving them and actually going to turn them into something, as opposed to I'm just going to keep those in the fridge for 3 weeks and never do anything with them. So thank you for encouraging my good behavior.
When I retired from the Senate, I'm still working. I didn't retire from work, but I really took up cooking, and it's saving me from a lot of grief, because you turn off, the TV and the news, and you focus. And it's fun, and I like it. And what I do now is I look at recipes, but, I decide, I don't like that ingredient. And I'm getting more sure of myself as to what we like. And so using the recipe as a guide, it's really been fun.
Let that be a lesson to every single person listening. And that is my goal, not only to get people to vote and to be politically active, but also to know that a recipe, even if it's a baking recipe, is basically a guide. I've had many scared guests on, and I'm glad that you are gaining strength. Not to mention, you were, I say, compelled, not that you wouldn't have been involved necessarily in these midterms, but you were compelled by events in your own district. No, not your district. This earlier this year, when you were redistricted, which happened to so many of us. How did that get you involved?
Well, moved to Palm Springs area. We had a conservative representative, and I worked for 3 straight cycles trying to elect a Democrat, and who'd be pro-choice and pro-people and pro-freedom and all those things. And so we finally get this wonderful member elected, Raul Ruiz, who is just the American dream personified, the son of farm workers. His Ronald Reagan, this goes back so far to the 1980s when I was in the House. We passed an amnesty, and his parents got amnesty. So he was born here, was a citizen, and then his family became citizens. And Raul went to medical school. He's an incredible physician and a beautiful guy. So anyway, he's now my congressman. And then I wake up one morning and find out, whoops, the commission took our area out of his district and put it into an incumbent, a 30-year incumbent named Ken Calvert, has been a Trumpite and who denied the election and who is extreme on abortion and bad on gay rights and the middle class and workers and all the things I could name. And so I found out that this wonderful young man, young to me, was running. He's a former prosecutor, and he prosecuted some of the January 6 people.
Oh, wow.
And, went after corruption, and now he took time off to run, and he's fabulous, Will Rollins. It's a 50-50 district, essentially.
Oh.
It's 37% Democratic, 36% Republican. The rest are independent. So it's up for grabs. And I have been really reignited in terms of my political interest because it's so close to home. And it's been really wonderful. And we'll see what happens. I'm still working very hard to get the vote out.
I very much have the feeling that we're all kind of on tenterhooks now, that every district, no matter where you are, feels very much up for grabs,
Yeah.
which I think has a lot of us baking nervously to calm our nerves. And also, I just feel that there is so much, almost, I feel through my inbox and through Twitter and places like that, a kind of panic that's happening. And you have had experience not only as running locally, running for representative, running for senator. What is your experience view on this?
Well, I don't know how many people have watched our former incredible President Barack Obama on the stump.
Mm-hmm.
And people, when he says something like, the Supreme Court did away with a woman's right to choose, it's such a slap in the face of women, and people would boo, he says, don't boo, vote. And he says it every time the crowd will boo. Well, I say the same to you. Don't panic, organize. And Nancy Pelosi, who we can talk about what happened there in a minute, but
I'd like to.
Her slogan has always been, don't agonize, organize. It's no time to panic. And, the way I look at it, if I panicked, I never would have gotten to the Senate 4 times. I mean, my races were on the edge. And this is important. My pollster, Mark Mellman, who's fabulous, he'd come to me about a week out the election. And I'd say, well, Mark, how am I going to do? And he said, in a large turnout, you'll win in a landslide. I said, oh, wonderful. He says, in a medium turnout, you'll maybe squeak by. And I said, oh. And he said, in a low turnout, bye-bye. It's over. So that's why we can't panic. We should panic if we stop getting the vote out, because that would be the dumbest thing we could ever do. So here's my theory on this election. It's interesting. Right after Roe, the Democrats peaked in the polls.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 weeks later, the Republicans peaked in the poll. But they peaked too soon also. And now everything is coming back, to the razor's edge. And we have the edge if the young people vote, if women vote. And the one thing Republicans are trying to do is divert us away from what is happening out here, which is, a real threat to our democracy, a real threat to Social Security, a real threat to Medicare, a real threat to the middle class and jobs. And this is the reason the Republicans have told us they're going after all these things. And so, there's people say, well, what about inflation? Yes, it is a problem and it's got to be fixed, but who's going to fix it? The people, the Democrats who've already passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and pretty soon we're going to see healthcare prices going down. And the president who said, we're going to forgive a certain amount of student loans so people will have more money in their pocket during this fraught time. And the president who says, I'm going to get oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to bring down prices and go after the oil companies for gouging. Because the other side, listen to what they're going to do to bring down inflation. They'll lower the deficit, which has to be done. And we did it by the Democrats, put a tax on corporations that never paid. Okay. What they want to do, they've told us they want to repeal that. And instead of reducing the deficit hundreds of billions of dollars through that tax, they're going to cut Social Security, Medicare, transportation, education, public health, food safety, you name it. So I don't think we should shy away from talking about the economy. Last point I'd make on the economy is, I always say the one worst thing than inflation is losing your job during inflation. You're really in a terrible mode. So I have memorized job creation. I will tell you this, Joe Biden, he's making the record books, 10 million jobs in 2 years. What did Trump do? He always talks about his wonderful economy. He lost 3 million jobs, 3 million jobs in, well, let me revise that.
Yeah.
It's either 2 or 3 million. I should have written it down. 2 or 3 million jobs in 4 years. What did Barack Obama do in 8 years? 11 million new jobs. What did George Bush do in that time? 3 million new jobs. So you can see Bill Clinton, 23 million new jobs. So however you look at this, jobs are the key important factor in any situation for every family. Don't go elect people who have a horrifying record on jobs.
And yet people that we hear about on the news, people, every reporter is in a diner right now interviewing somebody over a cup of coffee and their hash browns, right? And the people say, well, inflation, that's why I'm going to vote Republican, as if the message has never gotten across. And yet the facts, as you speak them, are very clear that it's the Democrats that can create jobs and
fight inflation.
Fight inflation. So how have we not been able to, the Democrats, Marissa Roadcup, have not been able to make that message stronger? The message of inflation has just gotten too noisy. I feel like the Republicans are screaming fire in a crowded movie theater at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's like everything else. The simpler it is, the better off the party is that has the simpler message. So when you're out of power and there's inflation, you go, look, he's in power. They're in power, inflation. So that's easy. Our job is to say inflation is a worldwide occurrence. As a matter of fact, if you look around the world, out of the industrialized nations, we have the least of any country, but it's bad because we see the war that has that horrifying nightmare over there in Ukraine that has really taken the energy sector and made it very unreliable, plus a price gouging. But look how long it takes for me to explain it.
I know.
I was an economics major in college, and I could talk about it all day, but who's going to listen? So you got to cut it down back to what I think is the best message, which is there's only one party fighting against inflation, and that's the Democrats. There's only one party that has a proven record on jobs, and that's the Democratic Party. So don't go the other way because they're going to destroy your Social Security. They're going to destroy everything. And, you're going to lose your job. There's going to be pain. That even takes too long. So it isn't that easy. But I think we're seeing more and more people talk about it because either way, I think the greatest messenger is Barack Obama. He's a thing of beauty to listen to. I don't know.
Absolutely. I had this feeling yesterday watching him. I'm like, I shall memorize how he works. You know how you watch someone, I'm going to talk like him. I'm going to pronounce things like he does. And I'm just going to, for a whole day, it's just going to be him on the TV and I'm going to learn it. Do you think it'll work?
No.
I'll never be.
Not at all. But you've got your own personality. Don't leave that behind. That's an important one. He couldn't bake anything in the kitchen, I don't think. Maybe he
probably doesn't want to.
I was very upset to learn that he could make really good cookies. But
I would too.
But he is a thing of beauty in terms of the way he tells the story. And I think what it boils down to in these last few days is who's really on your side? Think about it. And if you're a woman, who's going to fight for your dignity and the right to make your own healthcare decisions? If you're in the LGBTQ community, who's going to fight for equality in the workplace and the ability for you to marry who you love? You can go on. If you're a minority, who's going to fight for your equality and your ability to have the American dream? So if you're an immigrant, don't you have respect? And how could you vote for a party that doesn't respect you? Not even to mention the fact that we've had the most horrifying attack on the person who's second in line to the presidency having her husband lying on the ground after he was
right.
knocked out on the head. And people making jokes about it. People saying the most stupid, inane, outrageous, disgusting garbage about it. Who could vote for these people? Let's take a stand. Yeah. For the economy. Yeah. And Social Security. Yeah. And climate change. Yes. And equality. Yes. But how about for common human decency?
Yeah. It used to be that, the Republicans would talk proudly of family values.
Yeah.
Right. And here we have, I heard someone who was running yesterday, a Republican. I don't remember his name because I just didn't really want to remember it. It was yesterday. And he goes, I did get my chance to make my Pelosi joke. So does anyone have a hammer in the audience? But not to mention Trump bringing it up yesterday, Donald Trump Jr. talking. It's revolting. No one has said anything. I did a bit of a sweep of Twitter the day it happened to say, okay, let's see who's sending our favorite, even thoughts and prayers at this point would be okay. At the cliche that it is.
Twitter's a whole other story. People are dropping like flies because of Musk. But Hillary Clinton said something once when she was running, and I thought it was right. This election is not about who the candidates are, really. It's about who we are as a country, as a community, as a state. And, I'm forever always hopeful because I'm an optimist. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in office for 40 years. And I'm always hopeful at the end of the day, we'll find our legs. And, we're running out of time because if the guys get in who will undo our democracy, I don't know where it's all headed. But, no matter what you look at, the Republicans want to talk about crime. The most dangerous states in the nation, 9 out of the top 10 are red states. Right. So, you could go down any one of their rabbit holes. They don't have a leg to stand on, but all they do, as Kathy Hochul said, who's the governor of New York running, she says, they want to scare you. We want to keep you safe. These are all important things. And she found a wonderful soundbite. It's hard to find a soundbite for everything they are doing. But I think, common decency, it just says now, reject a party that is silent in the face of these disgusting comments and jokes and dangerous conspiracy theories. There are so many levels that, in my view, and I'm really trying to be completely honest with you, whether you use the economy as a measure, whether you use climate change as a measure, whether you use, fighting inflation as a measure, whether you use common decency as a measure, fighting for democracy as a measure, it's all clear to me that most people should vote blue. Now, it never happens. We have to win. We have to hold the Senate at least. That's critical.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I've been pondering for a long time how people who live, let's say, in red states, in a sense, and I'll use this word casually, but sort of fall for it, and they elect a Republican senator or representative, they're going to lose Medicaid. They're going to lose Social Security. They're going to lose education, and many of these states, Mississippi's the easiest one to point at, have the lowest rates of education in the country. And their representatives aren't doing anything for them. And yet, to me, I just see this huge disconnect. And I am constantly pondering how to develop a message that, like you said, is definitely simple, but also a message. I wonder if you could position all the things that the Democrats would do for you and show it to Republican people who say they're going to vote Republican, say, do you like this? And then have them say, yeah, I want all those things. Go, well, then you'd have to vote Democrat. Have people done that? They need to do that.
Well, I definitely think people are doing that, but it's way deeper than that. It's not about all that. It's about the politics of grievance and playing to people's fears and playing to people's anger about a lot of things. And so basically, You said something before. How could they fall for that? I almost think it's time to say that. Don't fall for the politics of grievance and the politics of hate and the politics of fear. Let's move forward. The greatest country in the world. Why? Because we unite. And now if we descend into this horrifying battle of hate, we're going to just lose our way, and we're going to lose this country, and we're going to fall apart economically in every other way. It's a very fraught time, but I don't think going to somebody saying, if you want A, B, C, D, E, vote for the Democrats. Because first of all, the Republicans say, oh, don't believe them, they're full of problems. You have to point out the fraud that's going on, to make you afraid, to take you away from looking at the hope and promise that we each have as Americans. It's very deep. I'm not a shrink, but I think you should bake cookies with a psychiatrist.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I did talk to a man doing a documentary. He was talking with neuroscientists. He was not one, but he was speaking with neuroscientists about what drives people to vote Republican and what's behind it. And in some studies, I will get the study for you, but in a study that was done, people who were more likely to vote Republican had larger amygdalas, which is the center of the brain that it has the fear response. So these people, by their nature, were inherently more likely to be afraid of things. So we sort of have to deal with that as well.
There you go. It's the politics of fear. So yeah. I guess somebody saw that study. That's amazing. That's so interesting to me. But yeah, preying on people's fears, that's what they do. Vote for us because the other guy is taking your place at work. Vote for me because you're not like them. You're not like them. And it's ugly. It's as ugly as it could be.
But apparently I, as a Jewish person, am taking over everything.
Both are. Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. So we have not just, your regular, average, everyday fears of things, but we also now have anti-Semitism. I'm afraid of anti-Semitism, and other people are now afraid of the Jews even more than ever. In our country's, in our recent history, it's very, I'm more frightened than I've ever been. And I think if my father or a Holocaust survivor were here, I have an Austrian citizenship open to me now, and maybe,
It's horrifying to have to think that way. Mm-hmm. But, history has shown us the dark, dark, dark side of humanity. And that's why, take it back to this election. We have to stand up for equality. We have to stand up for humanity and for humane politics. And this is all on the line. And absolutely, it's frightening to see the things come back that I, as a child, thought that happened. Never again, never again. Mm-hmm. It's the only politics that will save us is the politics of coalition building. People of goodwill, and people who believe we're all God's children. That's a basic with me. I've always said that during my time in office. They say, oh, those people over there, those immigrants over there, this over there. I'd say, you know what? Take it up with God, because we're all God's children. And, oh, those gays wanting to marry. Yeah, they're God's children. What are you talking about? And I do think sometimes I have brought my own spirituality to the fore, mm-hmm. even though, some people around me say, oh, don't go down that path. I said, why wouldn't I? It's what I believe. And, mm-hmm. Either we're going to all be one human race on the same team, working for the same things, or we're doomed. And we're doomed because anyone who's a minority, it doesn't matter what, you could call out every minority. But how do you beat that? If every minority votes the right way for the good people, we outnumber the others. And that's the hope. But if we're just upset and stay home and don't fight back, big problems.
I agree with you. I was reading an article about Jim Inhofe retiring, and he was talking about what he learned from Senator Byrd. And this is, I bring this up all to go to back to the point of us all having to try and work together, as whether it's God's people or in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And he said he learned from Senator Byrd, if you make enemies, you won't get anything done. Everything needs to be done by unanimous consent. And so he said, you're dead in the water if you can't do that. And then he spoke of forging friendships with people like you. And that's how he got stuff, knew that things would get done. I, as a person on the street, don't really have a sense that that's happening. You know, the ice cream socials aren't happening anymore. Tip O'Neill's not taking people out for drinks, you know?
Well, that's a long time ago. I want to talk about Jim Inhofe because I'm doing an interview with the reporter this afternoon on my working with him. And it's absolutely true that in the United States Senate, if you make an enemy, which they seem to be doing all the time now, if you want to take up a bill, it has to be done by unanimous consent. So if somebody says, I'll never allow him to get one we call it a UC, one UC, then you'll never get anything done. You won't be able to speak. So Senator Byrd's warning was apt. But what Jim Inhofe and I were able to do, which was really great, we knew there was no way we would ever be able to see this climate change the same way. Mm-hmm. He made fun of it. It's the biggest hoax. He threw a snowball in the Senate because to show that there was no climate change. And I would stand up and say, what are you doing? That's the weather, not the climate. You know, we fought, but we did it in a good spirit. And he would I gave him a polar bear once, a little polar bear. He gave me something else. And what we decided was there were certain areas we could agree on, having to do with infrastructure and having to do with making sure that the water systems and the sewer systems, these were all because we were environment and public works. That was the committee. So on the environment, we were head to head. And I had to beat him or he beat me, depending on the issue. And we never took it personally. We fought like crazy and right sitting next to each other, but it was never personal. And we were able to have a very good relationship to work together on infrastructure. And we got through at least 3 highway bills. Each one lasted 5 years, and they were all good, really good. And what I found out is when I wanted to get more money for electric vehicles or something, I could never say because of climate change. So not one of the bills ever used the word. It just said, let's lower prices for people as all prices go up and so on. So we found that what I call the sweet spot. And yes, it can be done. And there are still senators who are doing it to some degree. When anything gets done in the Senate, you have to understand it's because they were able to break the impasse. But it's not like it used to be.
Do you have a sense that it's possible to bring that sort of culture of unanimity or at least working together back? Because I already have a sense from Republicans now talking about what they're going to do when they win back the House of Representatives. And it doesn't really seem very bridge building.
I mean, they're going to focus on, they've already said it, they're going to focus on Hunter Biden's laptop. Now that really does a lot to make our lives better, right? So looking ahead, if they were to take the House, it's going to be ugly, ugly, ugly. Then they're going to try to repeal the tax we finally put on corporations who never paid a penny. They're going to try to repeal that and put all those other cuts in place. That'll be stopped in the Senate because the Republicans won't have enough. So it's major gridlock. Mm-hmm. And I don't even want to focus on it right now, but everything they say is, investigate Biden and impeach Biden and investigate Hunter and get his laptop and whatever else they're going to do, his iPad. I don't know. That's why I think the way to go now is, in this last few days, is just focus on winning. If people can send $5 or whatever they can send to these Senate candidates who are desperate, there's a lot of races that are literally tied. The last thing I'll say about the election, well, it may not be the last thing, but another thing I'll say is this. These polls are very dubious. They give you a sense of whether it's close or a mandate, but it's very hard because they ask likely voters. So if I have a kid who's, 18 and a half and never voted before, they're not going to ask that 18 and a half year old kid because they're assuming he'll or she will never vote. So they're not reflected. That's why there's so much focus by Democrats on getting the young person's vote out, because it's 60-40 in favor of Dems. If they don't turn out, it's tough, very tough. If they turn out, fine. Women, for example, in my district, we started talking about the 41st district, Will Rollins versus Calvert. 51% of registered voters in that district are women. If women vote in really large numbers and say, you know what? If I have a health issue, I want to call my doctor, not Mitch McConnell.
Yes.
No, pretty simple, straightforward point. Can you imagine? I saw an ad the other day. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a young girl, a kid who was raped or the victim of incest. And you don't know that at the beginning because you don't see her face, but you see the doctor, and the doctor is saying to her, oh, everything looks good. Everything looks fine. Let's focus on you. How are you feeling? And so on and so on and so on. And at the end, she says something like, well, I need to find out more information or something. And he says, I'll be right back. I'm going to go call your senator. And this little girl is sitting there looking like, what? And, it's a very hard thing to watch, but it's happening, that they're forcing children to have babies of their rapist. This is inhumane. If the women in this country don't wake up to this and they say, well, gas prices are bad and I'm just going to blame who's ever in power, that would be tragic, because gas prices are going to go down. We're going to have more. We've faced it before. Inflation, we'll deal with it. But we can't do anything if this child is forced to have a baby and the impact on her life.
I completely agree. And I hope that the people who didn't answer their phones, the people who are on the fence about voting, realize it and get the vote out. I've spent time in my classroom. I teach journalism, and I spent time in my classroom quizzing my kids on, because they're all 18 or older, what district do you vote in? How long can you vote? Where can you vote? What can you do? And also take a look at the ballot, because one of my causes is the importance of voting local and how important that is. In fact, it feels much more important than before. And I don't know if that's just me.
Look, you're right. School board, they're now deciding what books children can read. And they're deciding whether children can learn true history. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I got to tell you, I want my grandkids to learn history. True.
As it was.
As it was. No exaggeration, no under-exaggeration. Tell us, what were the laws in place? How did people vote? What did they do? What happened when abortion was illegal? How many women died? These things are historic in nature. We have to know our history. That's all I want to know. They say critical race history. How about this? Just tell the truth about everything. You tell the truth. Critical, not critical, uncritical. Tell history. Teach history. Teach the truth. Don't make up stuff.
Right.
It's the only way we're going to move and get better as a society.
Right. And also that word critical is sort of is important too, because kids in school need to be taught to think critically, right?
And they're critical issues. But
absolutely.
You don't want to call it critical, don't call it critical. I don't have to say it's critical. Just teach history. Right. I want my grandkid. I mean, they're learning history, and I taught them about it. It's so interesting and so important.
How old are they?
Well, 13. I have 2 13s and a 15.
Okay.
And I have a very old one who's business, who's 28. So I got a whole range. But
those kids in middle school and high school are right at that sweet spot to learn stuff.
For sure. And they like history. They love learning history.
Good.
And yeah, it's key. But so it gets back to your point. Yes, we have to care about who is on the school board, because what are they going to do? And are they going to tell people in school you can't talk about gay? What is that? I do not understand any of it. Don't say gay. Oh, so you don't say gay, so therefore no one will be gay. Is that true?
That's how it works. I've heard that from scientists.
Yeah. And if you do away with abortion, women will never get abortions. Well, I have to tell you, when I was reproductive age, abortion was illegal and women died. And I saw what happened. The boyfriend threw $300. They went to Mexico and they prayed God. They came back alive. They couldn't tell their parents. And if they died, you never knew why they died, because the parents could never say why, because then they would maybe go to jail. So I'm just saying, please, I saw it. I know. Mm-hmm. And, I'm old now and I have the ability to tell people what it was like. Women still had abortions and they are going to. And if we make it unsafe, women will die. And
absolutely.
That's it. And that's why every woman has to understand what's at stake. I don't like higher gas prices. And I know it's going to be a while and it's annoying. It's awful. And we have to cut back on other things. And I hate it. And I support my party going after the gougers and using petroleum reserve. But I also want people to live and not die from back alley abortions and not be struck down with a gun, because people are in power who don't understand we need reasonable gun laws. So it goes on and on, but it always gets back to where we started. Who is going to vote? And we can't agonize and, pull our hair out. Yes, we should bake, and yes, we should cook. That's a good diversion, but we need to save a couple of hours to do what you do. Talk to your students, making sure you follow up with them. I think you should ask them to get 3 other people to the polls. That's what's going to make the difference. I just wrote a letter to 9,000, I think it went to, people in my district who don't vote in the midterms. It's easy. They can get that information if there's a fall off. So I wrote to them and basically said, Republicans don't want you to vote. You got to vote. Just vote. You don't have to give money to anybody. In California, all you have to do, listen to this, fill out your ballot and put it in your mailbox. You don't even have to pay the postage.
You don't, because some states you do. So that's great.
California used to, but you don't now. How easy is that? I mean, truly, it takes 10 minutes to fill out that ballot.
I hope that's happening in lots of other states. I think that we have to get that message out. If we bake, maybe you could sell the baked goods. People at election polling sites, like at all of our schools, have great bake sales. Support your school. Go out and vote. Yeah. Thanksgiving is ahead of us. I hope we have a lot to be thankful for. You going to cook a lot on Thanksgiving?
I do. It's my favorite time to have the whole family over. So I have about 20 people. Mm-hmm. And I do everything from scratch. I do. And I have wonderful recipes for yams that I learned from a friend who was a Southern person years and years and years ago. It's lovely. And it's sort of a casserole of the yams with just a little water at the bottom. You bake them and then You cook them, make them soft, parboil them, slice them, and then layers of them, and in between butter and brown sugar. Sorry, but here I usually just have a sweet potato with nothing on it, but that's good. I'm going to do Brussels sprouts. I'm going to do cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes, all with that. And then I make my own cranberry sauce and stuffing. I mean, it's so much fun. And I just do, one vegetable, like on Monday, a vegetable, Tuesday, I just do it. And then when it comes to Turkey Day, I have to put that big baby in the oven.
Absolutely. That is great planning tips for everybody. So make sure that you have a plan on how to vote.
Yeah, and how to prepare for Thanksgiving dinner. All of life is planning.
You're certainly going to enjoy Thanksgiving more.
Yes. The first thing is, if you don't vote, then it doesn't go right, and you have to make believe you're happy on Thanksgiving, and you're really not.
No.
So there's no excuses. But I so appreciate this opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
And I really appreciate your concern and the way you approach politics, because it's very kitchen table. And guess what? That's what it truly is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marissa.
Thank you so much. And let's all go vote. A very special thank you to Senator Boxer for taking time out of her busy, busy schedule to come on the podcast. Please go out there and vote. Even if you have a busy, busy schedule, bring friends, bring neighbors, bring every eligible young person you know and can find, and make sure the voting happens. Follow me on Substack as well. I mean, in your spare time, maybe while you're standing in line at the polls, and Twitter at Marissa Rothkopf. Think good thoughts. I'll see you next week, hopefully with a happy smile on my face.